In 1531, a French mathematician drew this map. It shows a continent at the bottom of the world, with rivers, coastlines, and mountain ranges. The problem? That continent wouldn't be officially discovered for another 300 years. And when it finally was, it was buried under 2 miles of ice. Oronce Finé was no ordinary mapmaker. He was the royal professor of mathematics at the Collège de France, one of the most prestigious academic positions in Renaissance Europe. In 1531, he created a world map using a heart-shaped projection, a cordiform projection that was considered revolutionary for its time. But it's not the projection that made this map famous. It's what he drew at the bottom. A massive southern landmass labeled Terra Australis, with detailed coastlines, inlets, and what appear to be river systems. This wasn't a guess. This wasn't decoration. The level of detail suggests Finé was working from source material. The question is, what source material? Because officially, no human had ever seen this continent. And here's where it gets really strange. When you overlay Finé's map onto a modern satellite image of Antarctica, something unsettling happens. The general outline of the coastline matches. Not perfectly. This is a 500-year-old map drawn by hand. But the eastern coastline of Antarctica, the Ross Sea indentation, the general shape of the Antarctic Peninsula, they're all recognizable. In 1960, a man named Charles Hapgood, a history professor at Keene State College in New Hampshire, noticed the same thing. He spent years studying this map and others like it. His conclusion shocked the academic world. He believed that Finé and other ancient cartographers had access to source maps created by a civilization that existed thousands of years before recorded history. A civilization that had mapped Antarctica when it was still ice-free. And here's the detail that keeps historians up at night. The last time Antarctica was ice-free was over 6,000 years ago. But Finé's map wasn't the only one. The Oronce Finé Map is not alone. It's part of a pattern that spans centuries. In 1513, 18 years before Finé, an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis drew a map that shows the coastline of South America and what appears to be the northern edge of Antarctica. He noted in the margins that he used ancient source maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. In 1737, the French geographer Philippe Buache published a map showing Antarctica divided into 2 separate landmasses by water. For over 200 years, people assumed this was fantasy. Then, in 1958, a seismic survey confirmed that Antarctica is indeed 2 separate landmasses, connected only by ice. How did Buache know this in 1737? How did Piri Reis know the coastline in 1513? How did Finé draw those rivers in 1531? Every explanation requires us to accept something uncomfortable. Charles Hapgood took this evidence to the most powerful person he could think of. In 1953, Charles Hapgood sent his research to Albert Einstein, not as a fan letter, as a serious academic proposal, and Einstein didn't dismiss it. Einstein wrote the foreword to Hapgood's book on Earth crust displacement, calling it a theory that deserved serious attention. Hapgood proposed that the Earth's outer crust could shift over the mantle, meaning that regions now buried under polar ice could have once been in temperate zones. His later book, Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, made an even bolder claim. He argued that these maps were copied, generation after generation, from original charts created by a seafaring civilization that existed during the last ice age. A civilization advanced enough to map the entire globe. A civilization that mainstream history says never existed. If you're finding this as fascinating as I do, hit subscribe. We reconstruct lost history every week using AI technology that brings the ancient world back to life. Now, let's be honest, not everyone is convinced. Mainstream cartographic historians argue that Terra Australis was a theoretical concept dating back to the ancient Greeks. Aristotle believed there must be a southern landmass to balance the northern continents. By this argument, Finé wasn't mapping something real, he was filling in a philosophical guess. And the coastline matches? Some researchers say they're coincidental. That if you stretch and rotate any large landmass outline, you can make it fit modern geography. The river systems? Possibly artistic convention. Renaissance mapmakers commonly added rivers to unknown lands to make them appear explored and claimed. These are valid criticisms, but they don't explain everything. They don't explain how the Buache Map knew Antarctica was 2 landmasses. They don't explain the source maps Piri Reis referenced, and they don't explain why so many independent cartographers across different centuries and different countries all drew the same imaginary continent with eerily similar coastlines. Which brings us to the biggest question of all. If these maps are genuine, if they really do preserve knowledge from a pre-ice civilization, then everything we think we know about human history is incomplete. We're taught that advanced civilization began around 5,000 years ago in Mesopotamia. But these maps suggest that someone, somewhere, had the mathematical knowledge, the navigation technology, and the cartographic skill to map an entire continent. Thousands of years before the Sumerians wrote their first tablet. Was it Hapgood's lost civilization? Was it a culture we haven't discovered yet? Or was it something else entirely? The ice holds the answer. Buried under 2 miles of frozen water lies the actual coastline of Antarctica. If we could see it clearly, map every inlet, every riverbed, every mountain range, and compare it to what Oronce Finé drew 500 years ago, we might finally know the truth about who mapped our world before history began. The Oronce Finé Map is either one of history's greatest coincidences or one of its greatest clues. Either way, it asks a question that mainstream academia still hasn't fully answered. If you want to explore more forbidden history and lost civilizations brought to life through AI reconstruction, subscribe to Past Pulse and hit the bell. We publish new investigations every week. What do you think? Did Oronce Finé have access to ancient source maps, or was Terra Australis just a lucky guess? Let me know in the comments.